everybody, today we're going to be talking about careers in digital art and photo. I have a lot of statistics to get through today, so forgive me. I am going to be looking at my notes a lot because I can't remember a number to save my life, and so I've written a lot of things down. So if I'm looking down, that's why. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today first is careers that are available currently in the digital art vocation, and then we're going to be talking about what are the chances that you're going to get to actually have these. I'm going to be joined by my guest, Ruby, who is going to probably scream at some point during this video, which is going to be a lot of fun. So, first of all, let's talk about the different careers that you have in digital arts. So first of all, we have multimedia artist, which is somebody who creates, like for instance, when you go into a website, and I'll show you some examples on the side here, and the website moves around, or like there's interactive pieces with it. For example, when you don't have internet connection and Google has that little dinosaur that you can move, a media artist came up with that idea and then animated it and found like everything that goes with it, along with, like, for instance, the doodle for Googles. Those ones are also media design kind of related. Multimedia designers. Web designer, similar to multimedia, except for this is in the more traditional setting. Logo designers, which is essentially a graphic designer. Brand identity designers. These are people that are probably becoming more popular now as people are kind of creating brands that then have personality to themselves. For example, a lot of new millennials and Gen Zers are trying to invest their money in brands that have a personality or have a goal. And so brand identity designers are like people who come in and make sure that everything towards your brand is kind of meeting the same kind of criteria. Then we have flash designers, which are the type of animation designers as well as animators. That's another digital design artist. Creative art directors. This is someone who would oversee a team of people to kind of organize their thoughts and get everyone on the same page as to what they're creating. Photo editing or photo artists. So this would be the photographer or the person who edits, which isn't always the same person. If you get into a really big photography group, like for instance Life Touch, which takes all of our school mug shots, or even like Shutterfly, I think, has photo editors, or even someone who creates the software that makes photo editing. The next one would be that's called a layout artist, or this one, it's more, I think more is called the WebEx people, which is like web experiences. One of the best examples people always give is when you come into Netflix or Amazon. When you come in, what is the experience you're having? Is everything cluttered and mixed together? Is it all really organized? People use Apple as a really good web experience, and Amazon Prime is a terrible web experience. And so what exactly do those fall into? The person who created that, those are a new profession, or somewhat new profession of web experiences. Now let's talk about how much jobs pay and what are the chances of getting it. By the way, I'm gonna have like a little bit of a caveat into this. This BLS information, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, came out in 2019. 2019 was a different year, folks. So some of these things I'm gonna actually kind of give my opinion of whether or not I think it's actually true, or if it's changed now, and what I think if it's changed for the better or for the worse. And so that's what I'm gonna kind of do as I go through these pieces of information. So the first one we're gonna talk about is the multimedia artists and animators. So this would be your flash designers, your multimedia artists, and they've clumped a few of these careers together. So I'm not gonna go through each of those individual careers. Some of these are kind of combined into one. And so multimedia artists, they were predicting in 2019 that they'd actually see a 4% increase, which means about 2,900 jobs, with currently 67,000 jobs available. And the pay is about $75,000 a year. And that's actually pretty good. By the way, 4% is about as average as job growth is expected to be. Some jobs underneath 4%, it means a little less growth. 4% is standard, which is that's good, which means it's growing, it's retaining jobs, and it's keeping on, as they say. And so if you're interested in animation and multimedia, that's a safe bet. Also, there's a lot of people who are hiring in this position, and I don't think it has been affected too much by the pandemic. Look at, she just appeared out of nowhere. And it doesn't seem to be affected too much by the pandemic because people are so obsessed with getting their media presence better. And so in fact, this may actually be going up with the pandemic. This is something that people can work from home with doing, and it is also something that people can do the supply is still high during the pandemic. So the next one we're going to be talking about is web designers and graphic designers. So web designers and graphic designers are actually expected to see an 8% increase, which is high. That's actually really high. And it's a lot of jobs. That's 174,000 jobs currently, and they're going to be adding about 14,000 jobs in the next 10 years. So it's retaining and growing by double the normal. And then it's about $73,000 a year. Now remember, this is average. It could pay more, it could pay a little bit less, especially for first year people starting. The next one is the creative art designer, and in 2019 was actually expected to see a 2% decline, and that means that there'll be a loss of about 1,800 jobs with about 99,000 jobs currently available. And this I actually can see continuing just because of how independent the Creative Cloud allows people to be, and there's becoming more freelance work available. And so I really do see the creative director jobs kind of staying at this like downhill spiral, and even maybe getting less because of the pandemic. Next one that we are going to be talking about is filmmaking and directors. Now these are two separate ones. Filmmaking and editors are one category, director is another one. And film editors are supposed to see an 18% increase, and that means 12,000 jobs increase at 67,000 jobs currently, and $63,000 roughly on average for pay. Now something else that you should know about this is that there are a lot of other jobs available in movies as well. So that multimedia artists and CGI artists and all those aren't even those. I'm just looking at the bare bones thing. We are seeing such an increase in video production and editing that this is really a market that you should get into. We've all seen it, and let's start to address it. Someone says, I'd like a job in engineering, medical, lawyer, biology, and they get all of the support. And then someone says, I would like a degree or a career in the arts, and you get all of the questions. How are you going to pay for art school? Don't you think it's really difficult? How are you going to find a job after you're done? How are you going to support yourself? What are you going to do with your life? Obviously, these are valid questions, but we should be asking everyone these questions. We shouldn't just be focusing on artists. And so I wanted to take some of these safe bet careers and break down the statistics for what are the chances of these jobs. So the first one we're going to be starting with is civil engineering. Civil engineering is supposed to see a 2% decrease. Microbiology is supposed to see a 3% increase with 600 jobs and 20,000 currently. Ruby, you're not helping. Aerospace engineers, even with all of our new space programs like Elon Musk's and Bezos's, we're only supposed to see a 3% increase. And architecture is a 1% increase, and computer hardware engineer, which you'd think would be a safe bet, is actually only a 2% increase in jobs, which are all very slow growth in comparison to before. So why is it that our art degrees actually get more questions as soon as we say we want them? We talk about is the photographer and photo editor, and we're actually supposed to see a 4% decline in this, with 4,800 jobs lost and about 133,000 jobs currently, which means that the salary is actually not a salary. They average this out to about $17.44 an hour, which I don't really know why, because there are a lot of positions that do have salary jobs, but because it's a lot of times considered a contract job, there isn't really that salary median that they have for everyone. And for this one, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I think that's pretty accurate, especially since a lot of events are being canceled. There's a lot of people, yes, photography has become important in a different realm, but people who did weddings and events and like family photo shoots and senior photos, all of those, I've seen serious decreases in that. However, I've seen an increase in, for instance, products and being able to communicate with one another, and people having to understand photography. So we might see photography evolve a little bit, but as photography as we know it might change. Moreover, is according to an article by Forbes, the three highest professions for burnout is medical, law, and the STEMs. So that would be, of course, biology, that's science and technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those are the highest burnout areas. And so if you're going to be working hard at some point in your life, why not work hard on doing something that you actually enjoy? Now I'm going to talk about why being an art teacher is the best job you can have in the arts. And so first of all, what I want to talk about is when I was in elementary school, I wanted to be an art teacher. It was the first job I knew that I wanted. And when I went to high school, I was convinced out of it by teachers and students. The students said that I wasn't going to make enough money. The teachers that I talked to were burnt out from it. And so nobody really was encouraging me. And it wasn't until I went to college, which I went to college with a major of sociology, because the jobs in sociology are so plentiful. See why I'm saying we aren't having the right conversations? And because of that, I got there and I realized it didn't matter how little I made. People can survive off of it. And I didn't know anything more about the money that went towards it, but it ended up being like the best job that I could possibly ask for. I'm very happy in what I do and I enjoy what I do. And I never really wanted to be a professional artist, and that actually becomes a benefit of the art education thing. The reason why I didn't want to do it is because I didn't want to be an artist because I can't pick a single medium. I need to play around with a lot of mediums, and being an art teacher, you get to change your mediums all the time. And so one of the main things that go against it is, for instance, like, can you get a job in it? Yes, you can get a job in it. I have a job in it, and the jobs in art are actually kind of growing because there are more standards for arts now. And so like the schools need to have arts programs to be able to fill those standards. The other thing is the job market for digital art teachers is actually really growing. So really people should want to get into more digital art mediums. And then also the pay. I know that was a big thing that everybody was like, oh, you aren't going to be paid at all. Well, to be fair, from my own experience, I live in an area where, one, the teachers are paid decently, like Minnesota pays their teachers pretty good, and two, I live in a city, and so my pay isn't necessarily, but the cost of living isn't necessarily super low, but it is better than, for instance, living in Los Angeles or New York. That is really hard to live on a teacher's salary in those areas, and they should be compensated for the adjustment. So you hear a lot of teachers who can't live off of their salaries, and that usually has to do with where they're living in comparison. And I honestly have more than enough with what I make. I enjoy it. And so the other thing is the hours are great. Unless you have stuff to do, usually you have your nights and weekends off, and then your summers, which technically people say, oh, well, you have your summers off. They aren't technically off. We actually just don't work, don't get paid. A lot of teachers will take their summer pay, like their 9 months of pay over their summer months too. That's what I personally do. And so it ends up kind of like evening out over time. But those 3 months are not paid months. That is time that we've like stretched out, and some schools don't even offer to have you get paid over those 3 months. It depends on where you work. And so you know, it's a decent hours, and there are a lot of schools that go all year round too. And so those are just some options and some things that are kind of debunking some of the pay options with it. So just kind of, if you don't have a preference of where you want to live somewhere where it'll be more affordable. However, that sometimes isn't an option for some people. Another thing that kind of is great about, another thing that I love about being an art teacher is I get to work with students, and I love talking with kids. I think that they're so creative. I love teaching. I love seeing the light go on when people learn something new, and I kind of like forcing people to make art. That's like one of my favorite things to do. So it kind of rings into all of my favorite things. As for the pandemic, yes, my job has changed a little bit, and who knows if jobs are really going to change a lot for the pandemic. I have a degree in educational technology, and so being able to work online wasn't as hard of an adjustment for me. However, I really prefer working in the classroom. I love seeing people's reactions. I love having people look and talk to me and stuff. So, and public speaking isn't an issue for me. So yeah, I think that I really enjoy doing pretty much any version of education because I just really enjoy making people make art. So that's the end of the video. Did you find it helpful? Do you feel like there's any jobs that I missed? Is there any jobs that you feel like you now want to do? Has it changed your mind about a degree or career in the arts? Let me know, and I would love to hear from you. Have a great day, everybody. Bye!